Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. What does food mean to you? Stay tuned for today's episode. My special guests are M.G. Crisci, who is an author and cultural ambassador, and actually he's the author of many very interesting books on extraordinary personalities, and he's going to share with us some information on his latest book, Merriwether Vonderbruggen, or Merriwether, as he likes to be called, who is a chemist, a PhD, and a forager, and he's a regular on the show, and he's going to share with us another special herb that he's going to tell us all about, and I'm going to share some tips on how to avoid cooking accidents during the holidays. The holidays are upon us, and sometimes accidents do happen, so stay tuned. With the holiday season upon us, it's time to plan and host the traditional holiday gatherings. Of course, no holiday gathering would be complete without food, which means you'll likely be spending a fair amount of time cooking in the kitchen. And so much cooking carries a certain amount of risk with it, though. You want to enjoy the holidays, not spend them recovering from a cooking accident. So what should you be doing to prevent them? The first tip is don't leave things unattended. With all the hustle and bustle that comes with the holidays, it's perfectly normal to feel like you're being pulled in a million directions at once. That can make it tempting to leave things cooking in the kitchen unattended, but resist the urge. You'll never know that your food is burning, the pot is boiling over, or something caught on fire until it's too late. Stay in the kitchen and within eyesight of what you're cooking so you can prevent accidents. If you must take your attention away from a dish for a time, set an audible timer to remind yourself to check on it. My second tip is to learn to handle dangerous items. If you do much cooking at all, you're bound to handle dangerous items from time to time. Objects that are sharp, heavy, hot, or a combination of all can pose a real risk. Knowing how to handle them properly can reduce the chances of there being an accident. Learn how to use kitchen knives properly and make sure that you're using the proper protective gear when handling them or hot things. If anyone else in the kitchen, make sure you communicate clearly to them. Communicating with others prevents accidents while handling knives and other sharp objects. The same goes for transporting hot or heavy things from one place to another. During the holidays, we have lots of guests, and we want to enjoy our guests and talk to everyone and at the same time do the cooking, and it's usually not possible to do that safely. So, be sure, as mentioned, to communicate with others while handling knives and other sharp objects, and even when you're transporting those things. My third tip is to keep the kitchen clear. Accidents are practically guaranteed if you can't keep your kitchen walkways clear. Toys, children, and pets all have a tendency to get underfoot at the worst times. This can result in dangerous trips, slips, and falls all too easily. Having too many helpers in the kitchen can have a similar result. If your kitchen is feeling crowded, think carefully about whether everyone in there is actually helping. If they aren't, you might want to invite them to leave. While you're at it, practice cleaning as you go to keep your kitchen as mess-free as possible. You'll thank yourself for it later. Most cooking accidents are preventable. Avoiding accidents means giving yourself enough time to properly and carefully plan and prepare your dishes. Remember, when it comes to cooking in the kitchen, sayings like haste makes waste and more haste, less speed definitely ring true. If you want to avoid accidents, be deliberate and careful about your actions throughout the process. And here's wishing you an accident-proof holiday. So today we have a really interesting person, Matt Crisci, who is an author of, is it 10 books, Matt?
16.
16. Oh my gosh. But the books are the majority of them are these incredible, interesting personalities. So I was looking at your website and, each one is just so interesting. So I guess I'd start off by saying, how did you get into doing what you're doing?
Well, Maria, first of all, I've kind of lived a great life. So, and I regret nothing, as Edith Piaf would say. Yeah. I actually ran advertising agencies for about 35 years. And in that time, sort of collected the capability of kind of, sensing what was a good story and what wasn't, what was the essence of things.
Yes.
So I decided, like a lot of people, when I was 55, I got out of the business and I said, I'm going to write a book. And so what that led me on was the journey of learning how to write. And more importantly, I selected a first book, which was the story of a boy and girl who met in turn of the century New York. He was a famous musician, and she was a woman who wanted to spend her whole life with him. And she married once, he married twice. They never married each other. He wound up becoming the most famous accordionist in the history of the world. His name was Charles Minganti. And they're buried in the same cemetery near each other today.
Oh, wow. Oh,
and
wow.
So the story is called Save the Last Dance. And it turns out the woman's name was Fanny, which is what he nicknamed her. And that was my mother.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of set me on a journey of focusing on true stories.
Right.
I'm not a guy that, does science fiction and, he's coming out your ears and all that stuff.
Right.
And so the quest then became, what was an interesting story? And so, it's just a combination of circumstance, which is, I wound up meeting a guy that had 51 different heart procedures. We wound up writing a first person kind of Will Rogers story about his life, which is very inspirational, and it was endorsed by the whole medical community. Then I wound up getting interested in a woman in Russia who turned out to be the world's first female fighter pilot. And so I wrote a letter to Vladimir Putin, said I'd like to do a story. I laughed, everybody else laughed. 3 months later, the Postmaster General sent me a note that said, these are the women you need to talk to.
Oh, wow.
Good luck on your project. And that wound up.
It just goes to show you, just do it and try. If you think you're going to be able to do it, just try it, and you just never know what will happen. And here, wow. So the one thing I know, so your latest book, you have incredible, like really interesting personalities in all your books. So I definitely recommend for everyone to go to your website and check out all your books. So, but I wanted to touch upon your latest book, which is The King of Violins, right? And I knew you were starting to tell me. So can you tell us a little synopsis about that book?
Yeah, it's a story of a gentleman by the name of Ma Zedong. And Ma was born around 1911, died in 1987. He was the most famous violinist in the history of China. He created over 500 symphonies and ballets, actually more than Mozart and Brahms combined.
How about that?
And two of his pieces, including one called Nostalgia, are like God Bless America in China. It's played everywhere.
Wow.
And there's actually a 17-story museum in his honor in his original hometown of Ganzhou. But what happened was, and he loved his country, and he became an icon for raising money for the various wars that the Chinese were in. And the long and the short of it was, eventually Mao Zedong got jealous that he was making more money than he was and was actually more famous than he was. And so he cooked up a charge, and he went from being the national musical treasure to an enemy of state. And the Cultural Revolution, he was imprisoned. And he wound up, his mother died. They killed his brother.
Wow.
They put another brother and so on into hard labor. And eventually he fled through the night and wound up in the United States. And before he left, of course, they brandished his hands so he could never actually play
Oh my gosh.
compositions again, and focused more on producing compositions. And the CIA then got involved and guarded him literally like a treasure from
Wow.
1967 till the time he died
Wow.
in 87. And there's a whole big 10-page story in Life magazine about him and so on. So it's an unbelievably, and the twist was that I got to meet his last living descendant, a fellow by the name of Ken Chi-Cheng, who lives, believe it or not, 100 miles from me. I live in San Diego area. He lived up in Orange County.
Oh my goodness.
And he had all of Ma's notes and memorabilia and stuff that he hadn't donated to the museum in Gansu. And we wrote the first politically balanced story about the guy, because if you read Wikipedia and all that stuff, it's all been whitewashed by the Chinese government. So it's like he was Pollyanna and everything was fine.
Oh wow.
Failed to mention all the murders and suicides that went on along the way.
Oh wow.
And the fact that he was extricated, and he never ever went back to China, but he toured Taiwan many times. So it's an unbelievably heart-wrenching story. And the twist on it was, I got to know the guy so well and how he thought between the son-in-law and his notes. And so we made it. I wrote the book in first person Ma. I wrote it as if Ma was telling you his story.
I see.
And so, it's gotten great reviews. And
it sounds like a really incredible book. So tell us, do not that you have to, because you have 16 of them, but is there any other, do you have a next project in mind?
Yeah, actually, I'm working on, I've moved back into the Russian world again.
Oh, there you go.
I'm working on a book called Dr. Z and Me. And it's the improbable love affair of two doctors, one Russian and one American.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually a true story of a 60-year-old guy who falls in love with a 31-year-old Russian anesthesiologist. How they met, how they got together, how they wound up living together, how they came to America together, how he visited her in a little town called Orenburg up by the Siberian border. And eventually how they've had this unconventional relationship for the last 30 years. So
wow, sounds like definitely another interesting book. Matt, so tell everyone where they can find you and your books and everything.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, you can go to Amazon and you just put in the Amazon books M.G. Crisci, Crisci, and my page will come up, and it looks just like Stephen King and Mary Higgins Clark, to have all the books and stories and videos and whatever. Or you can go to my website, which is M.G. No, I guess it's no periods in websites. It's just M.G. Crisci.
Okay.
So M.G. Crisci, M.G. Crisci at mgcrisci.com, or just go to mgcrisci.com. All the books will be there, and there's video. Most of the stories have videos attached to them. And you can have fun. There's all kinds of. Our blog was just voted one of the 100 top blogs in the world. With
that's interesting.
All kinds of stuff in the blogs about.
So I'm sure they can sign up for your blog too. Then.
Yeah. So you can sign up for the blog if you want to be on our email list. Once a month we kind of do something. That's of interest, and sometimes it's self-promotion, but a lot of times it's invitations to unusual
exactly
whatever.
People can catch up with you and find out about your projects. Wow, that's great. So as mentioned, I definitely recommend, if you love to read, he's got some really interesting topics, so check out his website and all his books on Amazon. Matt, thank you so much. Look forward to your next book, and keep in touch. We'll, when your next book comes out, let us know. We'll have you on again.
Thanks again. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks. Bye-bye. And my guest today he's a regular, actually, Merriwether. He gives us so much great info on simple things that are really good for you. Simple things, meaning herbs and spices, things that, you can find in your, I guess you can, lots of these things you can grow, right?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. So, and today we're going to focus on turmeric, which is, I know it has so many health benefits. So, and by the way, I started just adding it to dishes that you wouldn't typically think have turmeric in it, because, like Italian dishes, because it really doesn't add a whole lot of flavor, but it just adds a lot of health benefits. So, a dash of turmeric is really good. But anyway, so tell us about turmeric.
Okay, so turmeric, it's an Indian spice from India. And from there, it has a huge ancient history in the Vedic medicinal practices of India. But because it does have a good flavor at higher quality or quantities, it is used as a spice commonly too. One thing you mentioned about adding it to your Italian dishes, that sounds delicious. Even like desserts and creme brulees and so forth. The secret, though, is the curcumin. The particular medicinal compound in it is actually poorly absorbed by the human stomach, but by the addition of a little bit of black pepper, it becomes greatly more bioavailable. That's why they say add, a pinch of black pepper whenever you're adding the turmeric. One of the things that black pepper does is it like I said, basically unlocks the intestinal tract and makes it more permeable to a lot of different compounds. So this aids in digestion and increasing the nutritional value from foods. But in the case of turmeric, it's really crucial, because otherwise we only absorb around 1,000th of the curcumin that is in the turmeric, which is the super medicinal herb. But by adding black pepper, it all gets absorbed then.
Wow. Oh, that's
so just a pinch of black pepper is all it takes to fire up and get all these medicinal benefits from the turmeric.
Wow. Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, I've been adding it, like a lot of times I do is I saute my vegetables with just garlic and a little bit of olive oil. So now I just add the turmeric when I saute, like spinach or really any vegetable that I saute. Even in my sauces, I add a little bit of it. But the black pepper, I've heard of that before. So, but I will definitely add a pinch of the black pepper in too.
Yep. That's all it takes. The black pepper is very potent. So it, like I said, it unlocks the digestive tract and makes it more efficient, which is what you need with the turmeric.
Yes. And how about, go ahead. Yes.
No,
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, let's go with you, because I was just going to launch into different random facts about turmeric.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of it.
Well, don't forget that. But I was just going to say, so I noticed I've been able to find fresh turmeric at some little ethnic markets that I've just started finding. So I actually get it, and I'll, I try to use that. I'm assuming the fresh is probably a better option than the powder.
Way better. Yeah. Because as you powder it, you increase the surface area, which makes it susceptible to attack by oxygen. Like so many different fresh, foods, herbs, and so forth, they lose their potency after you grind it up, just because oxygen is waiting to attack and change the molecules in it. So yes, definitely, if you can get the fresh stuff and grate it like nutmeg or a lemon zest sort of thing, that is definitely the best way of going with it.
Wow. Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. And for people out there, a lot of the markets have this now because it's so popular. So if you don't see it, just ask for it. Because a lot of places surprisingly do have the fresh turmeric. But anyway, so tell us some of the interesting things and facts about turmeric.
Okay. So let's go to the health benefits.
Yes.
Beyond just the anti-inflammatory issues, but we'll start with the anti-inflammatory. When
Yes.
people hear about turmeric, they're told, "Oh yeah, it's great for inflammation." So, what inflammation is throughout the body, it is a defense mechanism. When the body is hurt or being invaded by something, it triggers histamine. Histamine is the signal that tells the surrounding cells to basically swell up and retain water to seal off the damaged area.
Oh, wow.
So whenever you are hurt, inflammation occurs, the surrounding tissue swells up as a protective measure. Unfortunately, this also causes pain, and sometimes the body is a little too proactive, and when it gets inflamed, it may be more inflammation than the body actually needs for the issue at hand.
Oh, okay.
So what the turmeric does, the curcumin in it, it blocks this release of histamine. So if you think it's an antihistamine, so among other things, along with reducing the inflammation anywhere in the body, the inflammation causes pain. So think of it as a way of relieving or reducing pain from inflammation.
Yes.
Anti-allergy, because the allergies is a histamine response. The body feels it's under invasion by something. It releases the warning molecule histamine, which causes all the other allergy symptoms. So the turmeric actually helps with allergies and reduces the allergy symptoms. So you got the inflammation, especially from chronic like joint pain and so forth. I'm 53 years old. I got some joint pain. And so the turmeric is one of my daily things that I take to help with it, along with the pepper. I put it on I have 2 eggs every morning, slathered in turmeric and black pepper and some sea salt, and away I go. And it helps it keeps me able to move at times. But here in Houston, where I live, it's allergies are a big problem because it's always moist. There's always plants producing pollen. There's always mildew. So they say, if you don't have allergies, move to Houston and we will be assigned some. And so the turmeric is another way of just dealing with the body trying to fight off invaders that it really doesn't need to fight off, if that makes some sense there. So anti-allergy type thing.
Wow. So it helps you with the allergies too, have you noticed?
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. So like I said, this morning was crazy, and so I didn't get the turmeric. And I have my own morning show that I do outside every morning. And we just had a big storm come through. The air is filled with all sorts of gunk, and I'm trying really hard not to wipe my nose because my nose really wants to run right now. But it helps with the runny noses and stuff with the allergies that way.
Yes.
Another really good thing, especially this time of year, is they've shown, and let me just, for those of you who don't know me, background, I have a master's in medicinal chemistry, a PhD in physical organic chemistry. I've devoted my life to studying the science of the medicinal properties of plants. One of the things that curcumin in the turmeric has, it's been shown to be an antidepressant, which this time of year, I mean, it's supposed to be the happiest, jolliest time of year. It's also the highest time of year for suicides and depression and all that.
Yes.
So they've shown that in adding turmeric to your diet actually lifts your mood and helps you just deal with you would be sad. It helps, deal with that.
Right.
I mean, also part of it may just be, how much joy food brings to people. So if you're cooking with turmeric, you're cooking, you're making good food, and that alone has some power. But there's actual biochemical changes in your brain that it brings about to help lift depression.
Wow.
Very useful.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
Yeah. That's why I like it, trying to incorporate it into desserts, because it gives a very interesting flavor that blends well with like nutmeg and cinnamon and sugars and so forth, like a creme brulee.
Right. I could imagine even this time of year, because I'm always doing something with pumpkin and butternut squash, because you're talking about nutmeg and cinnamon. So, that sounds like that could be an interesting flavor to add, or an interesting or spice to add in with butternut squash and pumpkin dishes also.
And like a squash soup.
Oh,
with some,
yes.
that's
Oh boy,
good.
that
That's
sounds
good.
great.
And a
Yes.
little bit of black pepper. Don't forget the black pepper.
Right, the black pepper, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So,
Wow.
and since we're talking about desserts, let's talk about another power of turmeric. It has been shown to lower blood sugar. In fact, it has been shown to be 400 times better than metformin, the
Oh
most
my goodness.
commonly assigned, pharmaceutical medicine used
Right,
to control blood sugar, especially in type 2 diabetics,
right.
that sort. But the turmeric has been shown to be even better than that.
Wow.
So you can add it to your dessert. You can eat your dessert.
Yes,
You're not going to get
yes.
the spike in the blood
And the
sugar.
blood
It'll just
sugar.
help with the slow release. That's a
Exactly.
win. That's a
Yeah,
win.
it's definitely a win-win. Wow, that's great. And yeah, it's great to add in many holiday dishes from appetizers, soups,
Mm,
desserts, as we're saying
yeah.
here, which
Roasted potatoes.
right. Oh yeah, roasted potatoes. Definitely. That's really good. Roasting the potatoes with a great grating the turmeric and black
Mm,
pepper on top of the potatoes. That's great.
yeah.
Really good dish also. Sounds
Yeah.
delicious. Wow.
Now, let's
Mhm.
go to the thing you have to watch out for
Yes.
because people when they hear herbs and herbal medicine, they think, oh, it's all good and wonderful and,
Right.
and life is great. Well, the issue is because they are so powerful, they can interact with certain prescription drugs.
Right. I've heard
And
that.
so that's something you have to be aware of. And for
Uh-huh.
that, I really recommend going to the website WebMD
Uh-huh.
and just looking up they'll on the turmeric thing, they'll have a big list of the different drugs that have been known to interact with it. Certain things like blood pressure pills,
Okay.
because turmeric also lowers blood pressure.
Huh.
If you're on some sort of blood pressure medication, it can drop it too low. So when you stand up, you
Um,
get kind of dizzy,
oh
things like that.
wow. Oh
So you
wow.
need to be aware of that. So it's always
Yes.
worthwhile if you're on a number of prescription drugs to go to WebMD
Right.
and look up the particular herb and see if there's an issue between, say, the turmeric and whatever you're
And
taking.
whatever you're taking.
Always good advice there. Yeah.
Yes, that
And
is. That's
also, if you are surprising your guests with it, it's a good idea to let them know. So
Exactly. And I
if you're the
think the
type,
key is not to go overboard with it, like you're saying. Also, use it in moderation too, so that you don't want to overuse it. So it could, give some kind of effect. Because you're right, people tend to think, oh, it's all good, but you can have it, but you're absolutely right. You have to have it
yeah,
in moderation
yep,
also.
yep. Like there's a saying in the medicinal community, the difference between medicine and poison is
Uh,
dosage. And
uh,
Americans seem to think if a little is good, more is even
or
better. And that's not
yes,
always the case.
yes,
And it would
yes.
be hard to overdose on turmeric, but
But
I'm thinking it would be possible.
yes,
Like I
sure.
said, it's more, especially the lowering the blood pressure and
Uh,
lowering the blood sugar.
uh-huh.
And if your blood sugar drops too low, then you also run into energy issues also. So if you're
Yes.
on metformin and taking turmeric at the same time, that would be a
Yes, that
situation where
would
you
be
may
an
drop your
issue.
blood sugar too low. Yeah.
Exactly,
And then you don't want to
exactly.
be driving a car or anything like that. So,
Exactly. No, definitely
yeah.
not. Wow, that's really, really good information. So yeah, use a dash of turmeric and black pepper
Hmm.
in what you're making for the
Yeah.
holidays. That's great. All right. So any last words about turmeric? So I guess,
Okay.
fresh is better.
Yeah, fresh is better.
Powdered is, if you can find fresh, I guess it's, better than not using it at all, right?
Right. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that a lot of times, if you're like, say, an Asian market, they will
Uh-huh.
have turmeric tea.
Ah.
Don't bother with that.
Oh,
The
really?
particular, yeah, the curcumin, the
Uh,
key ingredient is not water soluble.
Oh,
So what
no.
you're trying to get will not be in the turmeric tea. It has other colors and molecules and so forth, but it does not have that key medicinal compound.
Yeah, I've seen
It,
the turmeric tea. They sell that in a lot,
yeah,
actually, regular supermarkets. In fact,
yeah,
I just came across some and I was like, do I try this? Do I not?
yeah.
Luckily, I didn't buy it then. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, oh,
oh,
I'm
no.
sorry. Yeah. The particular compound is soluble in alcohol. So if you want, you
Huh.
could take the tea bag, put it in vodka,
Right.
and use that as a base for cocktails or something.
Wow. Oh,
But yeah,
yeah, there you go.
as a
So
water-based tea.
Yeah, so you'd be
Don't bother
getting
with it.
some benefit that way then.
Yeah. Medicinal vodka.
Medicinal, yes, that's all good and all interesting. Well, Merriwether, thank you so much, and hopefully you'll come back next month with another herb. These are always fascinating things to find out, because there's always I always like to make sure my recipes and dishes are functional and have really a functional reason for eating them. So, adding these herbs and spices that you tell us about really help, and you can add those to the recipes so they're actually serving a purpose.
Definitely. That's like a lot of the spices originally were medicine that they just found tastes good too.
Oh, wow.
Let food be thy medicine.
Exactly. That's great. And just I just want people to know, we want to tell them where to find you again?
Yeah, so medicinemanplantco.com is where you can find me. I have a number of different herbal-based supplements. They're ancient plants and medication, or ancient plants and mushrooms used for modern illnesses. So it's the sort of thing your medicine man would have given you 14,000 years ago.
Wow.
But because I'm a scientist, it's all backed by scientific research too.
Yes.
So it's not fake stuff. This is the real thing.
The real thing. Yes. Oh, that's great. Great. Thanks again. And yes, I look forward to you coming back next month and telling us about another amazing herb or spice.
I think we need to talk about cinnamon next.
Cinnamon. Oh, yeah, that's great. And that's great for this time of the year because, lots of oranges, apples, things like that, dishes with that. Definitely. So I'm going to hold you to that. Please book an appointment for next month for cinnamon. Definitely.
Will do.
Great. All right. Have a great holiday also.
You too.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show and joining us. And thanks to my producer, Britton Roselle, and this week's guest, M.G. Crisci and Merriwether. And if you create any recipes from any of our episodes, please take a photo and share. Hashtag it, the Maria Liberati Show. Share on your social media or in the comment section of my blog at the Maria Liberati Show or at marialiberati.com, and you'll be entered in a giveaway for a drawing of one of the books in my book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. Or just share the episodes with your friends, and if you post a review, take a screenshot of the review and share it on social media. And again, you'll be entered in a giveaway for a copy of one of my books from the book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. And pictures that you take, that you share of the recipes that you create, we'll be selecting some and sharing those on the Maria Liberati Show website soon. So please do that. And also, we have a new feature that you can actually give some input into on the marialiberati.show.com website. It's highlighting nonprofits. So if you have a favorite nonprofit you'd like us to spotlight and maybe interview someone from that nonprofit and give them some free advertising, you can enter that information in on the front page of the marialiberati.show.com, and your favorite nonprofit may be selected to be highlighted. So please do. There's a lot of nonprofits out there now helping with the victims of the tornadoes that happened in Kentucky. So if you have a favorite nonprofit you'd like us to give a shout out to, please let us know, and we'll definitely spotlight that nonprofit. And for more holiday recipes, you can find holiday recipes, Christmas recipes, New Year's recipes, Feast of the Seven Fishes recipes in my Gourmand World Award-winning book that's actually become a holiday favorite, I'm told, all over the world. The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, Holidays and Special Occasions. It contains holiday stories and menus and recipes and wine pairing tips and decorating tips all for the holidays. But the recipes are special. They're for the holidays, but you can actually use those recipes any time of the year to make any day feel like a holiday. And you can get a copy of that book, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, Holidays and Special Occasions, at marialiberati.com, on the publisher's website, artoflivingprimamedia.com, on Amazon, on Kindle, really anywhere books are sold online. And you can get copies of any of my books from the book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, anywhere books are sold online. And you can find me on my blog at marialiberati.com, on the website for the show, the marialiberattishow.com, on Twitter at Maria Liberati, on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, at Instagram at Maria Liberati, on LinkedIn at M Liberati, Pinterest, you can find me at Maria Liberati, on YouTube channel is the Maria Liberati channel, and on Roku, it's the Basic Art of Italian Cooking by Maria Liberati channel. And until next time, peace, love, and pasta.